Welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on WakeUpCallDT.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on MixLR.com/WakeUpCallDT. Hope you're all having yourselves a terrific morning this morning. This is a very special episode of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, this being our Syracuse pregame show for football. Syracuse football pregame airing right here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, brought to you by all of our fantastic partners here in the community. I want to thank them all for being a part of our pregame show, and I want to give a big shout out to each and every single one of the great partnerships we have here in Central New York to help to bring you this Syracuse football pregame show airing on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. And those thank yous go to Cafe Kubal, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, Honda City of Liverpool, Avicoli's, Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, Chick-fil-A Cicero, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Trapper's Pizza Pub, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, the Millhouse Market, and Borio's Restaurant. And a special thanks to all of our beverage, that's the beverages that we have here. A special thanks to Body Armor, Monster, and Reign, as well as Coca-Cola for all that they do. So big thanks to each and every single one of you this morning as we get set for this pregame Syracuse football broadcast here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. I want to thank you for listening on MixLR.com/WakeUpCallDT, as well as watching on Facebook Live on Facebook.com/LiveNowDT. Now, you know that Syracuse, and this is our normally scheduled broadcast, tuning in live every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. A little reminder for that. Syracuse had a tough one when they went up against North Carolina. Syracuse, obviously, on the road, not being able to get it done and struggling, and ultimately the defense doing what I consider to be a pretty, there's no perfect job, but they did a tremendous job in my opinion. And ultimately, Syracuse was unable to do anything on offense, and so that definitely, obviously, hurt the team in that game. The defense giving multiple opportunities, sacks and interceptions, and from Mikel Jones to Josh Black to Andre Sisco and Kingsley Jonathan and so on and so forth. The team was making plays on the defensive side of the ball. The offense just couldn't get anything going, and ultimately North Carolina was only going to give you so much. You're going to only have so many opportunities before this team started to, in my opinion, kind of, turn on the gears and show up. And I thought that would eventually happen. I made note of that during the game to one of my buddies. I said, listen, it's only a matter of time before, it's only a matter of time before something happens. It's only a matter of time before North Carolina opens this game up. If Syracuse isn't going to make a response, North Carolina is going to have one. I mean, that's just how it is. You can only go so far before, things start to, somebody, makes a play. And Syracuse not making a play, North Carolina did what they needed to do at the end of the game. Javonte Williams had 3 touchdowns late. And, Sam Howell, who, people are touting as, one of the strong quarterbacks of the ACC, arguably, he didn't do much in the game, but toward the end of the game when things started to open up, that's when you saw a change. And unfortunately, Syracuse's defense giving all that they possibly could to the offense, but the offense just not having any answers, not having any way to really move the ball or get the ball down the field. So hopefully those things will change. Speaking with Tommy DeVito, you're going to hear what he had to say when we air my Q&A with him in just a little bit here. But Tommy, obviously in this game against North Carolina, it didn't look good. It looked like there were a lot of issues going on with the offensive side of the ball and being able to, my questions that came up were, if Syracuse reading the defense, is Tommy seeing what's going on out there? Is he making good reads? Are the receivers running good routes? Are they all covered? Is he seeing them? Is he not seeing them? What's going on as far as his vision as opposed to what is actually down the field and what is actually going on in that North Carolina game. And so we're going to start to see that as we have now another game to happen for Syracuse. We can see, where are the issues? Are there glaring issues still on the offensive line? Are there issues with Tommy DeVito reading the defense? Are there issues with Tommy DeVito surveying the field? Is he truly looking? Does he have the quick timing? Is his vision there? as far as, being able to survey quick. And, is he going to move out of the pocket? There's sometimes when the pocket was condensing and he was staying within it. So, those questions will hopefully get answered as we continue to move forward here with Syracuse's season. And also, are they going to lean on the running game at all? Are we going to see more of Markenzie Pierre? Are we going to see, more of Jawar Jordan Jr.? Is that going to be a point of emphasis? Are we going to see the tight ends utilized now that they have, Aaron Hackett and Luke Benson? Are we going to see more of that in this game against Pittsburgh? I mean, the one thing I do know is when Syracuse plays Pittsburgh, it's always an interesting game. And, these teams play each other close, either in a shootout or in like a 16-15 game. They play each other close, whether it's high or low. And so, I think that's what fans are hoping for, is let's make this game interesting and let's see Syracuse do something against Pittsburgh that gives you a little better feel and whatnot for what this team is going to look like, hopefully in a positive way, because Syracuse was definitely suffering in this game. Pittsburgh went up against Austin Peay, so it's not as easy to really gauge it. I mean, Syracuse going up against the talent of North Carolina, and North Carolina's offense was quiet, but like I said, eventually they're not going to give you a million chances, and if you can't answer on your offense, then, eventually the other side, I would imagine, is going to have an answer for that, especially with what I think North Carolina can be this season, which the rest of the ACC media agreed with me as being the number 3 team in, when everything is all said and done in the ACC. The ACC media as a whole voting for this, and myself as well voting that North Carolina will finish 3rd, only behind Clemson and Notre Dame in that order. So, that's something to be said about the talent that we are anticipating from North Carolina, but it was relatively quiet. On Pitt's side of things, they won 55-0 against Austin Peay, and when they, obviously in this game, it's different. The expectation is that they're going to get the win. This looks more like a traditional non-conference game that's played in the first few weeks of the season, as opposed to Syracuse playing North Carolina. Kenny Pickett went 14 of 20 as a starting quarterback, 277 yards, and 1 touchdown, no interceptions. On the ground, we know Pittsburgh likes to run the ball. Vincent Davis led the charge with 11 carries. Had 43 yards, so not a lot of yards individually for each player on the Pitt's rushing attack. They had many different players run the ball, but Vincent Davis had almost 4 yards a carry and 2 touchdowns. Israel Abanikanda had 1 touchdown, 5 carries, 26 yards, 5.2 yards a carry. A.J. Davis had 5 carries for 24, which was almost 5 yards a carry. Kenny Pickett had a touchdown on the ground. Daniel Carter had a touchdown as well, 4 carries for 18 yards, 4.5 yards a carry. The yards per carry for, those that had multiple carries was actually very strong. There's just not a lot of yards for each of them individually. Carter with 4.5 yards a carry, A.J. Davis with 4.8, Israel with 5.2, Vincent Davis with 3.9. And then we see in the receiving side of things, DJ Turner had a touchdown, only 2 catches. One of them was a touchdown for 76 yards. Shockey Jacques Lewis had 1 catch for 68 yards. Jalen Barden had 1 catch for 68 yards. Jordan Allison had 7 catches for 35 yards. So the ball was spread around here on the receiving side as well. So we're looking for a kind of a balanced attack, I would imagine, from Pittsburgh in passing as well. Well, I should say they're going to run the ball, I would imagine, a little bit more, but they didn't have to make too many big-time throws against Austin Peay, so we could see this be a change for the team because of the fact that, they're playing Syracuse and, the defense is going to be obviously a little bit different here instead of Austin Peay. I think that, Pittsburgh, though, leaning on the run could be something that they do in this game because the back end of Syracuse's defense is their strongest point right now. Arguably, with Andre Sisco and Ifeatu Melifonwu, as well as Trill Williams and so on and so forth. Maybe Kenny Pickett will be handing that ball off a little bit more and challenging Syracuse to see if they can beat the run, as they have many different opportunities, people to run the ball in that Pittsburgh backfield. But, 55-0, it's against Austin Peay, so that leaves leaves a question mark. But then Maryland last year, when they opened up their season and blew out their first opponent that they were anticipated to, it was like, yeah, okay, but that's not the caliber of Syracuse, and that's not where Syracuse is at. And then they blew out Syracuse in week number 2. So it's very, very important that, Syracuse obviously looks at this film, looks at what they can, and knows that there's talent here. When we go back to last season for Pittsburgh and the matchup that they had with Syracuse last season when Syracuse faced off against Pittsburgh, it was in Syracuse. Obviously, they go back and forth. 27-20, Pittsburgh got the win. Important to note here, Tommy DeVito was not in for the whole game. He actually split reps with Clayton Welch, who had 8 completions on 20 attempts for 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and 176 yards. Tommy DeVito had 11 completions on 23 attempts for 101 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Rex Culpepper also threw a pass in that game. Kenny Pickett went 18-33 against Syracuse, 232 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. A.J. Davis, who's back on the team this season, had 16 carries for 103 yards, 6.4 yards a carry, and a touchdown against Syracuse last season. And then Vincent Davis, who is back on the team again as well, he had 8 carries for 16 yards. Shockey Jacques Lewis had 1 carry for 7. So these are, the faces that Austin Peay saw that Syracuse will now see for another season. As far as the wide receiving core goes, Maurice French finished up his eligibility. He led the team with 6 catches, 92 yards, and a touchdown against Syracuse last season. He's not on the team anymore, but Shockey Jacques Lewis is with 3 catches for 24 yards. So the receiving core, different, obviously, that Syracuse is going to see. The running back, some familiar faces. But on the other side of it for Pittsburgh, there's no Clayton Welch. And so, they can obviously see Tommy DeVito. There's plenty of film out there. But this looks to be, I would imagine, unless something crazy happens or Syracuse goes down big and they put in one of the backup quarterbacks, I would imagine that we're going to see Tommy DeVito for the majority of this game, if not all of it. But they will see different running backs. Last year against Pittsburgh, there were no carries by Markenzie Pierre or Jawar Jordan Jr. Abdul Adams, who has opted out, Mo Neal, who finishes eligibility, were the backs that you saw here in this game. Taj Harris is back. He led against Pittsburgh last year in a touchdown loss. He had a touchdown himself with 3 catches and 111 yards. Tristan Jackson, not on the team anymore. He was the second leader with 76 yards, and he had 5 catches on the day. Sean Riley also had 5, and Sean Riley finished his eligibility. So there's going to be some differences here on both sides. Syracuse's defense, Josh Black had 2 sacks against Kenny Pickett last season. He's obviously back here on the team, so that's something to look to, is that he had 2 of the 3 sacks on the day. Andrew Armstrong and Lakeem Williams led in tackles. They're both finished up their eligibility and are not there at linebacker for Syracuse anymore, nor is Evan Foster. So that would leave Andre Cisco from last season as the returner that had the most tackles against Pittsburgh last year, with 6, 4 of those being solo, and he had he got tackled for a loss. He got a half of that. So that's something to look to on, in that respect. But a lot of the big-time defenders that are on the stat chart here for Syracuse last year against Pittsburgh are all gone. Elton Robinson, Chris Frederick, and the rest of the gentlemen I spoke about, Evan Foster, Lakeem Williams, and Andrew Armstrong, all finished up their eligibility with Syracuse. So it's going to be a difference here for Syracuse's defensive unit against it. Obviously, the 3-3-5 is going to be in week number 2. Tony White is going to be the defensive coordinator for Syracuse for week number 2. And the running game is going to be different for Syracuse. Pitt's going to have a different receiving game, and their running backs are going to be more familiar faces for Syracuse. So that's kind of what it looks like as we take a look at this pregame show and pregame opportunity for us to speak here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora as we roll toward the Syracuse at Pitt game that's being played here in week 2 for Syracuse, but technically week 3 of college football, as college football started a week before the ACC got their start. And I do want to get to our conversations with my Q&As that I had with the team, so I do want to jump into those. I have a video one here courtesy of Syracuse University and the Athletic Communications Department, as well as the football team. I want to thank them all for this, and so we can share this with you here in just a second, but I have the opportunity to bring that to you. And for those of you listening on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt, you'll be hearing it. And so let's hop into my first conversation, which is my Q&A with head coach Dino Babers.
How you doing?
Doing well. To get a game under your belt and be one of those conferences that has the opportunity to play, just what that meant to you, despite the loss, that you even have a season right now, currently.
It was, I was sitting out there talking to one of the officials, and they made a call, and of course, they thought it was good, but it wasn't. And I told him I'd turn it in, and if he's listening, I did. And I'm really good at when I turn those calls in. I mean, it's way over 90% because I don't nitpick. I really make sure. I won't even let the coaches turn the stuff in because a lot of times I'm like, we're not turning that in. I want to win. I want to make sure they say they were wrong. But getting back to it, I was talking to the official. I said, you know what? Even though that's a bad call, I'm glad we're out here. And I said, I'm sure you're glad you're out here working because there's some Big Ten officials that are standing around watching us work right now, and they wish they were as lucky as both of us. And so excited that we got to kick this thing off. So excited that the ACC, the SEC, and the Big 12, along with the other conferences underneath us, has got an opportunity to do this. And, we don't know if we're going to get an opportunity to do the whole 11, but, God's will, we will. And we'll just see and take it 1 week at a time. But it was great, and it was fun to be out there with the guys, and not only to play football, but to come back safely with our crew to get ready for another contest.
And then as far as the defensive side, D-line, as well as the linebackers in the secondary, making plays all the way through. Despite the loss, what did the defense show you as a whole as they step into their next game?
I think we should be optimistic about our defense. Now, again, I will say this. They really didn't quite know what we were going to do, and everybody else gets an opportunity to take a really good look at not only our defense, not only our offense, which some people are down on, but also our special teams. And like we're looking at Pitt this week, and you can only look at one half of their game before the game was over. And I'm sure they didn't show a lot of what they're going to do versus that opponent. And once again, we're kind of waiting for the game to happen to see exactly what they're going to do with somebody with our talent level. Okay, so it'll be a little bit of a wait and see thing again. But when this is all said and done, we get our second game in this season, I think we're going to know a lot more about our football team, and then we'll be able to decide which way we're going to go with it.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
That coming once again from Dino Babers, head coach of the Syracuse Orange football team here in his fifth season with Syracuse. 4-8 record in year number 1, 4-8 in year number 2, 10-3 in year number 3. And that included a win in the Camping World Bowl against historic rival West Virginia, the Mountaineers, down in Orlando, Florida at the Camping World Stadium. And then this past season, 5-7 for Syracuse. So, hearing that from Dino Babers, like he said, we're just happy to be out there. Now, I do want to make mention that obviously Penn State has changed their minds. The Big Ten has changed their mind. I got this here. This morning, you can see that here. That's the schedules are coming out already. Penn State's going to play at Indiana. Then they're going to play at home against Ohio State, Maryland, at Nebraska, Iowa, at Michigan, at Rutgers, Michigan State, and then Big Ten Championship week will be December 19th. So, going to be interesting here as the Big Ten has released their schedule. They are coming to the party. So, welcome there. The Pac-12 still has to decide exactly what they're going to do, but it's very interesting. As I said, and I brought up the analogy all week long here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, telling you that, it's kind of like, we're not going to the party. We're the cool kids, the Big Ten, the Pac-12 being like, we don't have to go to the party. And if we don't go, nobody's going to go because who's going to go to a party that doesn't have us? And then they saw that people were partying. They saw it on Instagram. They saw it on Snapchat and Twitter and Facebook and this, that, and whatever. And they're like, oh, my God, that party looks awesome. It looks like it's happening. It looks like people are having a good time. We should probably go to the party. So the Big Ten, who is postponing their season, has decided to do the opposite and hop right in as the SEC is getting ready to start. Pac-12 is going to decide on their season. Starts Thursday. So Pac-12 CEOs looking at this. They did not vote on a plan on how to start their football season during a meeting that happened this past Friday. So, we'll see what happens here. Now, the group which included a president or chancellor from each of the conference's 12 universities said, quote, the Pac-12 CEO group had an informative and productive meeting earlier today. This was Friday, September 18th. We plan to reconvene this coming Thursday, September 24th, to make a decision regarding possible return to play prior to January 1st. The health and safety of our student-athletes and those connected to Pac-12 sports will continue to be our number one priority in all of our decision-making. End quote. So this comes after the Big Ten decided, and the quote-unquote Power Five in the legislative term, the autonomous five of the Pac-12, the Big Ten, the Big 12, the ACC, and the SEC, 3 of those 5 decided to play. The Big 12 decided to play. The ACC decided to play. The SEC decided to play, gearing up to get started themselves. The Big 10 and the Pac-12 said no, and now the Big 12 has said yes, which leaves only of those Power 5, Autonomous 5, it leaves only the Pac-12, only the West Coast teams on the outside looking in. So I would imagine they're gonna get this figured out and get back to play. I would be baffled if this did not happen. Now, there's obviously fires that are going on. There has been issues with coronavirus and whatnot in California. I believe the state opened up and then it had closed down again. So, this is going to be an area of some concern, but I would be very, very surprised if they didn't find a way, somehow, some way, to get a season going for the Pac-12, else be left, the only one of the 5 autonomous 5 conferences in college football not playing. I can't see the Pac-12 doing that, but we will ultimately see what happens. I want to get to my Q&As with the team now here in this Syracuse pregame show, speaking on Syracuse and Pittsburgh here for the pregame, and the next conversations that I have to come up for you include 2 of the Syracuse players, that being quarterback Tommy DeVito and cornerback Ifeatu, a.k.a. Ifeatu Melifonwu. And so we'll start first and foremost with Tommy DeVito right here and have an opportunity to hear from Tommy DeVito here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora with my Q&A with him as we got set for Week 2 going up against Pittsburgh here in the 2020 Syracuse Orange football season. This is what Tommy DeVito had to say. Just to go off of, after looking at that film, what were your biggest notes for yourself as you step into Pittsburgh, the biggest things that you saw maybe about timing or some of the decisions you made that you really wanted to take moving forward?
Personally, I thought my decision-making was good. Always could be better. But, just that timing deal, the slightest split second. As soon as I see the receiver take that one step, just letting it go and just trusting the ball in the air and trusting them to make the catch. Just that tiny split second is what could have led to a sack or just make a big difference in the game. Thanks,
Tommy. Good luck.
Thank you.
Tommy talks about that split second, just a little bit of difference that had something small, something minute that has to change. Could have been a big play, but instead, turned into not be a great day for the offense. So Tommy's saying it's just something small. It's just a little split second, a little hair. So we'll see if they can correct that in the offense. According to Tommy, there's not that much off. We'll see if they could turn it on against Pittsburgh. On the defensive side of it, Ifeatu Melifonwu and I had an opportunity to speak with one another. He's in the back end of that 3-3-5 at cornerback, and I want to share with you that Q&A that we got to have this week. So here is Ifeatu Melifonwu going into the Pittsburgh game on what his thoughts are coming off of Week 1 and heading into Week 2 with this 3-3-5 defense that has been installed this season. This is what Ifeatu Melifonwu had to say when we had the opportunity to speak this week. Just to speak on your comfortability with the 3-3-5 and coming off of that, just what your thoughts are on Andre Cisco's leadership back there.
I definitely like the 3-3-5. It's different, but being a corner, I don't think it really changes that much for me, I would say, because I'm on the outside. But Cisco's leadership, that's one of my closest friends on the team, so that's just like, I don't know how to explain it. It's just like when I see him leading out there, it's like regular, like that's one of my close friends, so yeah.
Thanks, Iffy.
Okay.
Yeah, coming from Ifeatu Melifonwu, speaking on his comfortability in the 3-3-5, as well as the fact that he considers Andre Cisco to be a brother to him, and Andre Cisco obviously doing a fantastic job yet again, and making it happen. The first opportunity that Andre Cisco had to get an interception, he did exactly that. In game number 1 of this season, pulled down an interception against North Carolina and Sam Howell, which is very reputable to do. I mean, it's good to get an interception anywhere, but to do it with a quarterback, like I said, that it seems like people are touting as one of the potential strong ones inside of the ACC this season, to get an interception from him definitely says something. And to have 13 interceptions, to be the active leader in interceptions in the nation of all 130 Division I FBS schools, says something very, very special about Andre Cisco. So shout out to Cisco for all the work that he's put forward and everything that he's done. Trill Williams, nobody really, Sam Howell didn't really test him in game number 1, so that could speak volumes to Trill Williams. And so this, defensive back unit at Syracuse, coupled with the fact that the defensive line had Josh Black and Kingsley Jonathan pulling down sacks in the game against North Carolina, as well as Mikel Jones getting his first career interception in the linebacker core for the Orange, says something great about the defense potentially that they can build off of here. Now it's about the offense taking care of business and doing what they need to do and actually creating opportunities so that they can stay on the field. And you think about it, like, do they trust in the run? Will they trust in the run and give that an opportunity to develop? Because, running the ball is obviously going to condense the clock. It's going to keep it rolling, keep it moving, keep you down the field. I believe, and I know that there's different offenses that are played, and I know that, there's the air raids and this, that, and the other. But, ultimately, in my opinion, those teams that can really break you down by running the ball and just taking, just clicking that tick, 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 that clock, and just making it move and move and move and move, move down and continue to hold on to that. Possessions that are 8 minutes long. I mean, it's how you beat the Patriots with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, you know what I mean? So I think that's, if Syracuse can lean on the run, if Markenzie Pierre and Jawar Jordan Jr. and company can step up, this would be great to see. It would be great to see Syracuse lean on that run a little bit more, not have to rely on Tommy DeVito making every single play. I mean, that's the thing, is Syracuse looks one-dimensional. The expectation is that Tommy's probably not going to run like Eric Dungy did. And not that he can't, I'm saying probably not. I would lean like 60-40, 70-30, that probably 70-30 that Dungy's going to run then pass. With Tommy DeVito, I think it's more like 80-20 that he's going to pass, or maybe 90-10. So, there's that little wrinkle of the game is not necessarily there. I mean, Tommy can run, but I don't think that's where we're going to see it happen. I don't think it's going to be 50-50. So a defense kind of anticipates he's not going to run the majority of the time. A defense anticipates Syracuse is not going to run the ball the majority of the time, because even when they had Abdul Adams and Jarvion Howard, there still wasn't a dedication to the run, and there hasn't been for years for Syracuse, which has taken them away from what I believe should be their identity. Not that they shouldn't pass, but I think that, being a strong running team and RBU, I mean, you look historically at Syracuse, and how is Syracuse not considered RBU or one of the RBUs when you have Ernie Davis and Jim Brown and Floyd Little and Rob Drummond and Joe Morris and Larry Zonka and on and on and on and on and on. I mean, to really look at the history of Syracuse and to see, those running backs and just how much that meant to the school, and, how they were kind of just, handing off that number 44 for a long time all the way to Rob Drummond. Or pardon me, to Rob Conrad. Rob actually didn't want to wear it. Rob wanted to have his own number and his own identity, and he chose number 36. And Rob Conrad was the last one to wear number 44. But to look at the reality of this, if Syracuse was to commit at least something to the run, it could give an opportunity to open up the offense, to give Tommy DeVito some more comfort and whatnot. But the offensive line obviously has to be clicking on all cylinders in order for Syracuse to run or pass. So that's a huge element that's going to affect both. So it starts with the offensive line. Then you hope that Syracuse will run the ball so that they can be somewhat multiple. I think you could see a balanced attack when they face off against Pittsburgh, because we know Pittsburgh can run, but they can also pass now. And so, we could see them open up the offense in that respect. And when you're not multiple, that definitely is going to affect you, especially against a team like Pittsburgh that I anticipate is going to harass the heck out of Tommy DeVito with their defense. Now, do I think that, Pittsburgh is the team of old where, I'm looking at a defense that's going to, punch you down and drag you out under Pat Narduzzi? Well, when I look back at the schedule from last year and I look at, the scores that happened, they held Ohio to 10, but that was an anticipated win. They lost to Penn State, but only held them to 17. They allowed 34 points and won on a trick play against UCF at home in Pittsburgh. They held down Delaware, which you anticipate. They allowed 34 points to UCF. They allowed 30 points to Duke. They allowed only 10 points to Georgia Tech, who wasn't a great team. They went to overtime and allowed 27 points to North Carolina, allowed 28 to Virginia Tech, allowed 26 to Boston College. So, and they allowed 30 to Eastern Michigan in a win in the Quick Lane Bowl on Thursday, December 26th of last year. So under Pat Narduzzi, we look at it and say, okay, they're doing better defensively than they were again, a few years back when Syracuse and them had a shootout. But we look at some of these games and who they're able to hold down. They couldn't hold down UCF the year before, allowed 45 points. They allowed 38 to North Carolina. They allowed 51 to Penn State in a loss. They defeated Syracuse in overtime, but allowed 37 points to Syracuse. They allowed 45 points to Duke. So we look at some of these games and say, okay, is Pittsburgh a punch down, drag out defense like they used to be? I would say no. I would say that there's remnants of it. There's the potential of it, but is it there every game? No. But I do think Syracuse, when Syracuse goes up against Pittsburgh, they're going to try to harass the heck out of each other. And Syracuse's defense, if they continue to do everything they did against North Carolina, again, I don't blame them for the end of the game. I think any defense that's on the field the majority of the time is going to eventually run out of gas. So, you look at the score, and it was 7-6 for a while, then it was 10-6 for a while, and then it ballooned to 31-6. That was the inability of the offense to hold on to possession, the inability of the offense to get anything going, make any plays, and even when they were in the red zone and within the 5-yard line, within the 10-yard line, Syracuse's offense did little to nothing, did not score a touchdown, did not get in the end zone once, and had 2 field goals in the game from Andre Schmidt. So, ultimately, Syracuse is, I put a lot of it on Syracuse's offense after game number 1, but it's just one game. And so, once this offensive line and these running backs and Tommy DeVito and, the receiving core and this, that, and the other, hopefully they can get comfortable and they can start to move the ball together. But they're definitely going to have to, take some of this heavy burden off of the shoulders of the defense, because you can't rely on this defense to do everything for you. And they did darn near everything in that game against North Carolina on the road against a team who we could see at the end of all things continue to be ranked in the top 25, in North Carolina. And we could see this North Carolina team, be one of the top teams in the ACC. Like I said, I believe they'll finish third, and the majority of the ACC media agreed with me and voted the same, that they will finish third, speaking on North Carolina. So Syracuse, no slouch defensively against North Carolina, against a good team. Now we have to see what they could do against Pittsburgh and Kenny Pickett and company, and can they stop the run? Can they sack Kenny Pickett? Can they get those interceptions? And when those things happen, will Syracuse's offense have something that they can give to it? Do they have points that they can put onto it to make these takeaways meaningful, to make these 3-and-outs meaningful, to make these the stops in the red zone to force a field goal instead of a touchdown? Can Syracuse's offense bring meaning to what Syracuse's defense is doing? That is a big-time question mark, and hopefully the answer is yes, the offense can, and yes, the offense will, for Syracuse fans out there. And we'll see, what they do here against Pittsburgh. But I want to thank Dino Babers for being a part of the show today. I want to thank quarterback Tommy DeVito and cornerback Ifeatu Melifonwu. I want to thank Syracuse Athletics, the university, and the football program for giving us an opportunity to Zoom call with Dino Babers as well as the players each week. I greatly appreciate that very much in our coverage in a very unique time. And so I want to let you all know that when it comes to pregame and postgame, you'll find it right here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Stay close to us on social media, Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, Twitter at Call DT, and Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT to find out the exact times of when we're going to be going on. Things are fluid because of different game times, as well as I do post-game Zoom calls. Obviously as part of the media, we do our post-game Zoom calls and whatnot, and so that affects it, and obviously with home games, traveling back to the studio and whatnot, that affects it. So just make sure you stay close to us on social media so you can find out when the pregame and the postgame are going to be in a very unique time in our history as humanity. So thank you so much for watching the pregame and listening to it. Thank you for watching and listening to the postgame. I will be right here with you on Facebook Live on facebook.com/livenowdt after Syracuse at Pittsburgh. And I will also, be with you here on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt so you can watch and listen. Big shout out to Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory for what's poppin'. And make sure that you get to maandpazpopcorn.com. That's maandpazpopcorn.com. I implore you to get yourself out there. maandpazpopcorn.com will give you an opportunity to get 20% off of all of your orders. Whether you pick it up in the store or you have it delivered to your house through Wake Up Call, you can get 20% off. We have the code. Nobody else has this exclusive offer. It's DT20. So go to maandpazpopcorn.com. And when you check out, use DT20. You get 20% off on us. This has all been done inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. Cafe Kubal coming to you, to your location, to your neighborhood, and your place of business with their mobile cafe. Their home delivery will come directly to your home, obviously. And if you're in Onondaga County, you do not have to pay a delivery fee. And their neighborhood cafes that are available on 208 North Townsend Street, as well as 401 South Salina Street, 3501 James Street, inside of Galisanos Children's Hospital, and on 324 West Water Street. You have multiple locations to go to Cafe Kubal. You can have them delivered to you, and you can have their mobile cafe bring the entire experience of Cafe Kubal right to wherever you are in your neighborhood as well as at your place of business. Check out cafekubal.com for more information, and go to wakeupcalldt.com to the Central New York tab to learn more about all the great companies that we're proud to work with. You can see them all and learn more about each of them by clicking on their company names on the Central New York tab, including Cafe Kubal, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, Avicoli's, Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, Chick-fil-A Cicero, Honda City of Liverpool, as well as Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Trapper's Pizza Pub, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Borio's Restaurant, and the Millhouse Market. Thank you to our beverages of choice, Coca-Cola, Body Armor, Monster, and Reign. And we'll look forward to seeing you after the game of Syracuse at Pittsburgh. And have yourselves a fantastic day. As always, God bless, no stress, do your best, and follow my thoughts on the game on social media, at WakeUpCallDT on Facebook, at CallDT on Twitter, and at WakeUpCall_DT on Instagram.